Hello students, the question is a gas can be taken from A to B via two different processes ACB and ADB. As you can see in the plot, when path ACB is used, 60 joule of heat flows into the system and 30 joule of work is done by the system. If path ADB is used, work done by the system is 10 joule. The heat flow into the system in the path ADB is, the options are given. This is a JEE Main 2019 question. Date of the examination was 9 January, first half. Okay. First we have to understand the first law of thermodynamics. The law says dq equals to du plus dw. Now when we use this form, always remember dq is the amount of heat that is absorbed by the system. This is very important. Understand this very clearly. dq is the heat which is absorbed by the system, or you can say the heat that is given to the system from outside. Now if the heat is extracted from the system, then in this formula dq will be negative. Remember this very carefully. If heat is absorbed by the system or heat is given to the system, I will put dq as positive, and if heat is taken out of the system, I will put dq as negative. Now dq is done. Coming to the second term, which is du. du is the increase in internal energy. Increase in internal energy. Try to remember the formula like this. It means if the internal energy of the system increases, then I will put du as positive, and if it decreases, then du will be negative. And coming to the third term, dw. dw is what? dw is the external work done by the system. So like before, I can say if work is done by the gas or by the system, then dw is positive, and if work is done on the system, then dw is negative. So this is the basic meaning of the first law, dq. Often people write this equation like this. There is no problem in that. So dq is positive when heat is absorbed by the system or flows into the system, and dq is negative if heat is taken out of the system. Similarly, du will be positive if the internal energy of the system increases, and du is negative when internal energy of the system decreases. Similarly, for dw, dw is positive when work is done by the system, and dw will be negative when work is done on the system. Now coming to this question, here the gas is taken from A to B, that is from this point to this point, via two different paths. One is ACB and the other is ADB, right? Now since the initial and the final state of the gas is same on PV diagram, I can say that the initial and final temperature will also be the same. Not same, I believe. That means the initial starting position and the final position is the same. So I can say the change in internal energy is same in the two paths, that is ACB path and ADB path. So du will be same in the two paths, right? Now in path ACB, look at the question. In path ACB, going to next slide. In path ACB, see the question carefully. 60 joule of heat flows into the system. Therefore I can say, if I write dq equals to du plus dw, 60 joule of heat is flowing into the system, as I mentioned earlier. So dq will be plus 60, and 30 joule of work is done by the system. as I mentioned earlier, if the system does the work, then according to my convention dW will be positive. So this is also plus 30. Therefore du is what? That is the change in internal energy is positive 30 joule. That means I can say, since this is positive, so in going from A to B, the internal energy of the system increases by 30 joule. Okay. Now coming to the next path, which is ADB, right? Now in ADB path I can also write dq equals to du plus dw. Now look at the question. In path ADB, work done by the system, again work done by the system, that is dW is 10 joules. So dW is positive 10 joules. They ask you to find dq, and what is dW? As I mentioned earlier, that since the initial and final position is the same, that means I can say that in the two paths the change in internal energy will be the same, because change in internal energy of an ideal gas depends only on the temperature. If the temperature difference is the same, then du will also be the same, and you know the formula of du is what? NCV dt. Since dt is the same and we are applying for the same gas, therefore du will also be the same. So in path ACB, du is what? 30 joule. So in path ADB, du will be the same as 30. So dq is positive 40. That means heat is going into the system. So the heat flow into the system in path ADB is 40 joules. So correct option is option 4. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe my channel, PhiSolver.